Luna is down 54% in the last 33 days and 32% just in the last 5 days. Now, are these typical market movements? Is it nothing to be afraid of? Or is there something else that's kind of leading Luna to shed off so many of the gains that we've seen in the past couple of months? Well, we're going to be discussing that right here on Crypto Saver. So welcome. So one chart that I like to look at is comparing the price movement between Luna and BTC. Now, as we know, BTC typically controls the overall sentiment of the crypto markets, right? If Bitcoin is going up, likely all the other coins are going up as well. And I like to kind of see, well, how much in lockstep is Luna trading to Bitcoin. And as we look at this chart here, we can kind of see that something in the last couple of days, in the last 5 days, we've really begun to diverge from Bitcoin's movement. Typically, on this type of chart, if you would see sideways movement, that would tell us that if Bitcoin is going up 1%, Luna has gone up 1%, or vice versa. Bitcoin down 1%, Luna's down 1%. If that sort of price movement would tell us that, well, these candles would essentially be trading sideways. If they're green, that's kind of telling us that Luna is outperforming Bitcoin. And if it's red, as we see now in the past couple of days, it's telling us that it's underperforming Bitcoin. And as we look on the right-hand side under this watch list that I have, you can kind of see Bitcoin sitting up 1.5% in the current day, while Luna is trading down 8%. So there's definitely something going on with Luna. Now, personally, I have two reasons for why I think Luna has been performing so poorly in the last couple of days. And the first reason will be Anchor's relationship to a project known as Abracadabra. And everything began with this tweet right here on Twitter by ZachXBT. And I'm going to briefly go over this, but you're still going to get an idea of who the players are here. So Zach releases a whole Twitter thread basically saying that one of the owners of another project known as Wonderland, Michael Patron, that person is not only a founder of Wonderland, but they are also the CFO of Abracadabra. Now, we'll get into why Abracadabra matters when it comes to Anchor. Now, the reason why this was big news, because, well, quickly, mainstream media kind of covered this, and turns out to be that Michael here, he actually has quite the extensive record. He has been charged with conspiracy to commit credit and bank fraud in 2005, burglary, grand larceny, computer fraud. 2 years later, he's changed his name twice. He got deported out to Canada. And more importantly, he was actually involved in a failed Canadian crypto exchange known as Quadriga CX that actually ended up rug pulling all their users for hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, what really kind of made it even worse was that 2 days prior, Abracadabra and Wonderland announced that they will be merging together. So again, this character, that Michael guy, became really entrenched with what's going on with Abracadabra. And now we can finally move into why Abracadabra matters. So I would say that towards the end of November, early December, there was a very popular, it's still very popular, strategy on Abracadabra within the degen box, where you can essentially keep on looping your UST deposits within Anchor. So as you might know, if you're a Terra user, you go on Anchor, you deposit your UST into it, and you receive a 20% yield. Well, Abracadabra, since they themselves have their own stablecoin known as MIM, M-I-M, they figured out, well, in a clever way, they figured out a way to essentially create like an infinite loop where you can, off a single deposit, you can keep on adding onto that deposit. So to briefly explain how that would work, you would first go on to Anchor and you would deposit your UST as you normally would. And as you should know, you would receive AUST in return. You take that AUST, you'd go over to Abracadabra, and you would use that AUST to borrow MIM, the stablecoin for Abracadabra. Once you have that MIM, you would then be able to exchange your MIM for UST. And once you have that UST, you would deposit it back into Anchor, and once again, you have more AUST, and you would just keep on repeating this over and over again. They even made a method where it was essentially automated for you if you want to. You wouldn't have to keep grabbing that AUST yourself. You're able to essentially select how much leverage you want, and they would just do it for you. So if you want 3, 4, 5 loops, you can do so. Now, when this first came out, there was a lot of kind of controversy within the Terra community because it did, without a doubt, lead to a massive increase in Anchor deposits. Because all of a sudden, a person essentially only needed to put 100 in, and now they could actually leverage that up to like 400 UST. While technically everything is seemingly secure, everything is kind of backed by stablecoin, and the yield is coming from Anchor. And that led to a lot of growth within Anchor, and there's a lot of speculation that, listen, because of all that UST demand over the course of December, that is why we saw Luna skyrocket to just above $100. So tying that right back into this whole, call it a scandal right now, people are getting afraid. People are like, listen, it seems like, this Michael character doesn't seem too great, and people are simply trying to sell off their assets that are connected to Abracadabra and Wonderland here. And MIM is part of that. And the reason why MIM matters here for us is because people that utilize the strategy of creating this infinite loop, essentially, you needed MIM to be able to do so because you are borrowing MIM against your AUST. So if you wanted to essentially not have MIM on your balance sheet, right, you would have to unwind all this leverage that you've taken on. So let's take a look and see how much was actually being removed from Anchor in the past 24 to 36 hours. So on smartstake.io, we can kind of see the deposits here, right? This would be the UST deposits into Anchor. And, it's kind of always been growing. And you can also see here how towards the end of November into December, there's been a big pump in deposits on Anchor. Now, again, some people can say, well, that's just naturally Terra is getting more popular. But a lot of people were crediting that demand for UST to Abracadabra. And as we look in the last 2 days, I mean, it's clear as day that what's going on with that drama over there is having an effect on Anchor because, yesterday we essentially had 156 million withdrawn from Anchor, followed by 800 million today. So we're almost at $1 billion that have been withdrawn from Anchor, basically due to the fallout that we're seeing on Twitter right now with Abracadabra and Wonderland. Now, do I think that this will have a longer term effect on Terra, on Luna, on UST? I do not. I think the deleveraging that's occurring is actually good. I am personally an advocate that project should not have, that Anchor should not have been allowing that project to leverage up the way they have been doing so. They're pulling in way too much growth. And honestly, I would have preferred for them to kind of go into this unwinding period where people are just simply getting rid of the MIM, than have it happen in a few months where all of a sudden the amount of leverage that was being created by Abracadabra was so massive percentage-wise versus all the other deposits within Anchor, because we're seeing $1 billion being wiped out here. And I think right now I think there's something like maybe like 6 or 7. I mean, you can kind of, let's see if we can, yeah. So over here, we can kind of see that there was a total of about 4.8 billion deposited, and instantly in the last 24 hours here, we've gone from 4.8 to 3.8. I mean, and that's an obvious drop. When you look at this chart, the purple line here, you don't see a drop like this anywhere else. Not to this level. So about 25% of the deposits from Anchor were just wiped out, and this just speaks to the fear. People obviously see this, they get fearful, and Luna can sell off on that. Do I think that the majority of the fallout from this news is essentially already starting to get priced in? I do think so. I think if it's always the first 24 hours, I would have to say, as the news gets spread, but I kind of think that this should not have as much of an effect on us moving forward from here. And on Anchor, if you are staking your ANC, by the way, there is a poll out right now to disable the MIM degen box, right, to end the cooperation between Terra and Abracadabra, right? And it kind of states some of the same things that I've stated earlier in this video, and it's currently being put to a vote. And as it stands right now, it does seem that most people are voting for yes. It does have to pass the quorum at 10%, but it does seem like when this gets pushed through, we wouldn't have to worry about this leverage risk moving forward. So let's talk about the second thing. The second reason why I think Luna kind of is going through some pain right now, and it also has to do with Anchor. No surprise. So as we look at this chart here for Anchor Reserve, the biggest thing that should stick out for you is that after December 10, the reserve, which basically gets kicked in once there isn't enough interest and staking rewards collected from the borrowers. If that's not enough, then the yield reserve is supposed to make up that difference. And come December 10th, Anchor has been running essentially upside down. Again, you could look at this and kind of say that, hey, Degen Box might actually be responsible for this. And I would make that assessment. It just pulled in way too much growth, way too quickly. And because of that, we've been shedding out yield reserves extraordinarily fast. I mean, we've gone from a 78 million yield reserve. We're now sitting at a 33 million reserve. And on top of that, we're burning nearly, I would say, about 2 million USD out of the yield reserve per day right now. And if we have 33 million in there, I mean, we're looking at about a 15-day run period from here. So in 15 days, it would seem that Anchor would essentially run out of the yield reserve unless something changes. Now, if we do scroll a little lower, we can also see something else that's interesting. This is the amount of interest that Anchor has to be paying out, and because of this huge unwinding that's occurring on Abracadabra of UST, the amount of interest that Anchor has to be paying out has actually dipped severely in the last 36 hours because there's simply 25% less deposits. So we've kind of gone from 3.2, what is that, about 3.2 million. We've gone down to about 2.7 million, which is funny because that actually would essentially help the yield reserve a little bit because obviously we're paying out less. If you look at the amount that's being collected, toggle this off. It's still not looking that great, though. That's kind of the problem here. In total, Anchor's collecting about 1.2, 1.3, while even at this point, we are paying out 2.7. So that is that deficit that the yield reserve has to be picking up. So when people look at this and they're like, wait a minute, Anchor is really coming to the ends. There's about 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe of the yield reserves. Like, how are things going to look? Because as we know, the vast majority of the TVL in Terra is essentially in Anchor. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would have to say it's maybe somewhere between 80 to 90% of all the money that is invested, staked within pools or placed somewhere within Terra. 80-90% is within Anchor. So if all of a sudden Anchor drops a yield by who knows how much, what would happen? Would people kind of withdraw their UST and swap out of UST into something else and go into other projects on other blockchains and so forth? Again, just more fear there. Now, there's something to kind of put some light to that, which is this tweet by Doe, where he basically does say that, he says it tongue-in-cheek here, what do you guys want for the yield reserve? Everyone voted for 300 million. And from the looks of it, Doe will end up depositing about TFL team, Terraform Labs, will end up depositing about 300 million into the yield reserve, which I would guess would happen within the next week or two. And if that does happen, I would guess that would also obviously help a lot of people feeling a lot more comfortable, especially those that are currently invested into Anchor, to essentially feel comfortable that, listen, there's not going to be a massive bank run or anything along those lines. Now, what is my price prediction for Luna? Would I be a buyer here or not, right? So we've had a massive move down. There's no question about that. We went from 100 to 50. We're still sitting near the lows of the day here. I mean, we ticked down to 47. We're up to about 50. This was obviously a very euphoric move that we saw during the course of December. I do feel like we've kind of fallen down to more proper levels in the sense that if you look from from August to November, we were slowly grinding up here, kind of accumulating. And I would say that probably would be a level that if I was still looking to add in more Luna into my position, I would be doing it somewhere in the low 40s to mid 30s. That's where I think Luna can actually still end up going in the short term, in my opinion. I bought the majority of my Luna, I would say between $40 to $42. I believe I own about 496 Luna as I make this video. So I'm positive maybe by about 20% on my Luna. I haven't sold a single one of them, by the way, even throughout this whole drop. I mean, I never took any of a profit and so forth. So I mean, this drop still hurts me as well. But I do see that, it's very well possible that Luna can go down to about 35. 35 to 40, especially as long as the longer dough takes to replenish that yield reserve. Luna's going to be struggling. And ultimately, I do want to say that it's very difficult to be bullish on crypto as a whole right now when you can kind of take a look at what the equity markets are doing. And if you own any stocks that are not huge cash flowing companies that are established, you're likely down 30, 40, 50% of your money there because investors, institutions over there on the equity markets, they're so risk off right now. No one wants to take on any risky positions. And we're definitely seeing that throughout crypto. And crypto will always trade as a risk on asset. It's an industry that you go to when you're looking to put on more risk, not a place you go to for less risk, naturally speaking here. So even if we do find a bottom, I do not expect us to go to 100 and over anytime soon here until we see the equity market actually begin to calm down. When you start seeing stock, ETFs on the stock market, such as ARK, begin to rally up huge, that's when I would say that, hey, listen, we're likely going to see a massive rally up in things like Luna because it would kind of be a risk-on environment then. But until we see that, I don't really see that crazy new levels for Luna. And I do see, a short-term bottom, I would say, from 35 to 45, I would say. And that's the level I would be accumulating if you still want to add on more positions of Luna. And that's my opinion about Luna right now and what's going on of it and why we're seeing all this turmoil. This video kind of gave you some more insight. You kind of know a bit better about what's going on. I mean, throw me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. If you're looking for Terra-related content, news about protocols, tutorials, and so forth, make sure to subscribe. I would appreciate that. Any questions, go into the comments below. I answer everything. And outside of that, thank you for watching and have a great day.